Welcome to the Page One Podcast, a twice-weekly podcast featuring a variety of guests and thought leaders on topics ranging from channel strategies to tariffs, influencer marketing, best-in-class product launches, and all the details about how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers, or what we call R-commerce. Now, here's your host, Luke Peters.
Thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast. I am your host, Luke Peters. This is the podcast where I bring you the best and brightest leaders to share consumer product sales and marketing strategies that will help you grow your business. I am the CEO and founder of Newer Appliances, where I cut my teeth selling products online, and now I've started Retail Band, where I hope to help other brands succeed in product launches, influencer marketing, and B2B online sales strategy. And quickly right now, I'm offering a free evaluation of your online sales strategy. So if you're interested, find me on LinkedIn or email me at luke@retailband.com. And let's get started here. In this episode, you will learn from Jason Barth and Jamie Carey about the company Premier Group. And we're going to talk about designing, engineering smart homes. But what I thought was really interesting is we're going to talk about a $13 billion portion of the economy called CEDIA. And Jason will talk more about that and also just talk about how we can sell into the builders sales channel and learn more about builders and architects. And for those of you that have home products and home appliances, learning about how you can grow your business with builders. So Jason and Jamie, thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah, how you doing?
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, great. And Jason, I have your bio here quickly. You graduated from DePauw with degrees in communications, consumer psychology, and finance. Is that 3 degrees?
Yeah, I like to say I didn't like any of it enough to go overboard, so I just learned a little bit about everything.
Yeah, there you go.
But they've all served me well.
You're a glutton for punishment. And then Jamie, if you don't mind giving a quick intro about your background.
Yeah, I graduated from Miami University in Ohio and graduated with a marketing degree. But out of college, I became a professional photographer for 14 years. So this job now kind of combines those two skill sets, marketing and photography, for the Premier Group.
Awesome. And what are you, Canon or Nikon gear user?
Canon.
Oh man, come on.
But I'm not going to hate on Nikon.
All right. I got a bunch of Nikon gear and all these expensive lenses, and yeah, photography is awesome. So what kind of stuff are you shooting?
I started off as a portrait photographer, and then to weddings, families, senior portraits, and then I'd always been interested in architecture, but based on my schedule and the age of my children, I needed to kind of get out of nights and weekends and started getting into more commercial or architectural photography, which is what ultimately led to this opportunity here with the Premier Group.
Good for you. And you know what, being good at photography, it helps so many ways. I'm sure you know this, and probably ways you don't even realize, especially when you're shooting products or even stuff around the house. You're probably the go-to person for everything because you know how to properly frame something. So it's kind of cool to have that skill set, I bet.
Right.
It's amazing how difficult it is to shoot the interior of a home and get the right perspective without distortion, the color balance, get the lighting correct. It's extremely challenging, and we're fortunate that Jamie's very talented. We brag a lot. We look at pictures of our projects and then we see other pictures. And we're like, wow, ours looks a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
It's just one of those things that many companies, not even just our industry, but many companies neglect to photograph their finished work. It's just something where when you finally get done with something, you're already on to the next 1 or 2 projects. So, once I came on board and I had that skill set, it's just been nice to be able to document our projects and then submit them for some of these awards that we've recently won.
Yep, absolutely. And and I mean, I started out shooting our products, so we do appliances, and they are really difficult with glass and stainless steel. And luckily, we've been able to hire in or bring in some contractors that are just experts in it. And if you don't start with a good image first, before they get to Photoshop, there's some things that just can't be fixed. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Try to nail it in camera.
You got to get in camera. All right, cool. So moving on into this, so Jason, you're the CEO, and Jamie, you're director of marketing. You handle social media, photography, and relationships with some of the builders. So why don't we get started on this, Jason? And why don't you quickly describe the company and then describe what CEDIA is? Because I thought that was really interesting in our pre-discussion.
Yeah, so we're a member of what's called the CEDIA organization. That's the Custom Electronics Design and Installation Association. It comprises about a $13 billion a year industry. It's roughly 4,500 companies across the United States are members of the CEDIA organization, and we design and install home technology systems. So starting with network, then security systems, alarm systems, camera surveillance, access control, of course, audio, video, and entertainment category, and then smart home automation, lighting control, heating and cooling control, thermostats, motorized shades, drapes, and blinds. Essentially, if it has a wire, we probably do it. But those are our major categories.
Perfect. And then how about a little bit about the company? If you can just break down a total number of employees, talk a little bit about your physical footprint and the different departments you have at the company.
Right. So we're in our 21st year in business. This year, we've got 23 full-time staff that focus on sales and design of technology systems and curating all the products and information that's out there. And then the physical implementation with project management and on-site installation. We work directly for consumers, and as you started to allude to, we work a lot in the builder channel. So with builders and people building new houses, and we also get a lot of leads from at the top level from architects and interior designers.
Cool. And so you said, I think 23 full-time staff, how many of those are focused on sales or how many of those are mainly out in the field, or most of them out in the field, performing the work?
Yeah. So there's 5 of us that are on the front end sales and design team. Myself and Jamie, as well as Ken, CeDIA, and Tyler in my office. So technical design and engineering and sales. And then my business partner, Matt, manages the operations side of the business. So that's all the rest of the field workers, technicians, programmers, network gurus,
service
et cetera.
Department, yeah.
Service team.
Cool. And then talking about your channels. So you said, obviously the end consumer, and then you have the builder channel. With the builder and the architect, is that would you see that as the same channel, or would those be 2 different channels?
So, I think that the obvious answer is that, if you're hiring an architect, you intend to build the house. I think that, if you're at the production level, the Toll Brothers and the Pulte's of the world, you don't ever meet with the architect. You choose from a predefined set of floor plans, and that's how they bring a little more value, right? They've built these houses before. They have methods and techniques and economies of scale. And if you're building a custom home, well, then it's possibly a one-of-a-kind, never been built before. And so then you're working with an architect who is specifying all of the materials and products and design. And then that goes to, perhaps then you shop and get bids from multiple builders until you choose a builder who's going to build your one-of-a-kind custom home. Cool.
And then, so I guess and these are questions that really help the listeners understand the business more. And what I always find fascinating is kind of, the breakdown of sales per channel. So it sounds like the main channels would be the architect and builders. Let's just combine that for the sake of this question. And then the next one is direct into the consumer. So you're literally having to work directly with the consumer, sell that project. It's, I'm guessing, longer individual sales cycle.
Yeah, Luke, and sometimes those customers come directly to us. So not all of our leads are from the trade. Some of the leads are the customers themselves.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because of your reputation and the marketing you're doing.
Right. And their growth, yes.
So of the number of, if you want to just break it down by projects or dollars, what % is going to be direct consumer? So you're doing individual consumer homes versus builder and architect.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Certainly we do more projects in terms of the overall quantity for consumers that come to us directly who live in an existing home, right? Let's face it, at any point in time, 97% of America lives in an existing home, right? And 3% are building at any given time. So we do a lot of volume, a number of projects, but the gross dollars comes from the new construction projects because they tend to be larger. When people are building a home, they're buying more new things, right? Like they're buying just like they're buying new appliances. Well, they may be buying new television or a new audio system, or they're putting in an alarm system. So there's a lot more. They're higher dollar projects. They generate more revenue.
Because they cross over into all of our categories versus just coming to us with an existing home, for example, and asking to put in a security system or asking to build a network. A new construction allows us to cross over into all of our categories of business. Then they just have one guy to deal with versus 6 different individual companies that might point fingers at one another. We kind of manage the whole thing and make it the most efficient design for that customer.
Or try to go it alone and figure out themselves, which is a really horrible idea.
Right.
Okay. Well, hey, that's really interesting. So that's obviously you love all your customers, but that builder vertical is a really valuable one for the company. Just like you said, because you're able to do, maybe more like bigger, deeper projects because it's a home from scratch. And just for the audience, we're going to get deep into that because I thought just, in looking at Jason's background and what Jamie has done for the company, I thought for the audience here on the Page One podcast, it's going to be valuable to learn more about this builder category because I don't think it's as well known as maybe it should be. And, we're all focused on mass. So we'll get into that. Kind of before we started though, or before we get going there though, Jason, I thought I wanted to ask a couple hopefully fun questions. Like so as far as technology goes, everybody loves technology. What is on trend right now? What's new and exciting that people are putting in their houses?
Well, I can tell you for sure, for the last 5 years in a row, the two fastest growing segments of our business are lighting control or lighting automation and security cameras. Everybody wants cameras. I mean, there's no question that that's probably the hottest subject. I mean, whoever you talk to, like, yeah, I've got a Ring doorbell, or I want the Google Hello, or any of the other camera systems, and they want to keep an eye in the backyard, in the driveway, in the nursery, in the you name it. So people want to keep an eye on their property and they want to feel safe and secure in their house, right? I think that's kind of always been number one. Like if you live in a home and you don't feel safe and secure, that's the first thing you're going to focus on, right? And then you get into the more fun categories. Lighting automation has been big, for the convenience. And a lot of times it starts with security, automating front porch lights and garage driveway lights and floodlights, and then interior lights so it looks like you're home when you're not. Having a simple button like the good night button that turns all the lights off in the house when you go to bed. Having everything be dimmable, being able to set themes for the home that are really pleasing. So that's a big category.
Yeah, and in the camera section, I totally see that growing, and it's surprising. I didn't actually think that would be the answer when I asked you this question. I thought you might talk about something in the sound department because there's some cool stuff with Sonos going on in other brands like that. But it totally makes sense. I mean, I see that the video camera and the security industry is you can just tell it's massively growing. But that's cool to hear it from someone who's actually doing these installs. One thing I always think with that though is, you're collecting all this data and all this video, and it sometimes, there's like data overload, like there's analytics overload in business. And then it's one thing to collect it, but another thing to actually look at it. Are there a lot of automated triggers put on that tell the homeowner when they actually need to go look at that video, and otherwise they don't have to touch that app? Or just diving deeper into it, I just think it's interesting because, there's all these things we can do, but do we really have time in the day to go check, monitor, and turn these into valuable new data or video or information that we have?
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic question. You used a couple key words there. One was you used the word analytics. And then you talked about, do we really have time in the day to use this stuff properly? And of course, as a company our primary role is to curate the information that's out there for our customers and help them make choices with what are the right technologies for them. And then to make those technologies easy to use and relevant to their lifestyle, that's our primary focus, right? So choosing the right product is big. And so when we talk about analytics-based cameras, I think there's a lot of misleading advertising out there where a manufacturer might call it analytics, but it's just basic, simple pixel-based motion. So if a certain amount of pixels in the camera image move, you get a notification. And with that basic technology, it can be effective, but it could also create a lot of false positives. And so then that's the technology that falls by the wayside because your homeowner can't trust it, right? They don't know that for sure that something happened. When you kind of take it to the next level and use true analytics, where we can tell the difference between a deer and a dog and a person and a car and a deer or whatever it is that's around your property, that becomes a whole nother level of reliability and security. So again, there's tiers of products for everyone based on price, point, aesthetics, performance, etc. I think to the earlier point, it was interesting when you said, well, those weren't the answers I was expecting, camera surveillance and lighting control. Those are two of the categories. If you think about the CEDIA channel and the 4,500 companies that are designing, installing systems for customers, well, those are the categories they need help with. They're less likely to try to do it themselves, right? Sonos is a great DIY product. And actually, interestingly enough, we're a huge Sonos dealer. That's just a tool to us that we use to help provide music systems, but we're typically not selling like the Sonos One or the Play 5. We're typically selling a client the Connect or the Connect amp, or it's now called the Port, right? The new products, the port and the amplifier, and we're connecting them to speakers that are mounted maybe in their walls or their ceiling or surrounding a swimming pool or a patio or deck, and embracing kind of a more customized look and feel to the music system.
Okay, cool. That's a really good, thorough answer, and super interesting that the cameras can tell the difference of, deer, dog, car. And I definitely understand, or can appreciate the value of that versus, say, a pixel, something that's monitoring if, this many pixels move, we're going to call, we're going to alert you of that movement. So that is really helpful and hopefully helpful to listeners. And I guess with that, we got the Super Bowl coming up in a couple weeks, and I think it would be fun to hear from you guys about maybe a fun project that you built with, TV or sound in mind, and just give the audience just an idea of, what that looked like start to finish, maybe what the cost was and what the components were that went into that.
Yeah. So, Jamie can speak a little bit towards how we actually do market towards what you just said. We think ahead, like in implementing a project, how far out in advance do we need to market about the Super Bowl, or the Summer Olympics coming up this summer is going to be big, or, in March Madness before that. These are big times where customers are thinking about a deadline, right? Like, hey, I want to have my system ready for the big game.
Yep.
But one of the really, really coolest new products that we've had the privilege of partnering with LG is their new short throw projector. It's a 4K laser projector that sits about 7 inches from the wall and projects a 120-inch image on a bright screen. And it's just amazing. I mean, everybody that comes into the showroom that sees that display is immediately thinking about, where can I put this? What room is this going in? Where do I have space? Whether it's a rec room, a family room. We've had clients put them in the master bedroom, right? And just a big, bright, clear image. And the benefit of the short throw projection, the technology is in the lens that allows the projector, instead of hanging it way back on your ceiling in the middle of the room or the back of the room, we basically can install that system any place where someone has a television. Right? Your television's mounted on the wall or sitting on a cabinet. Well, now we can put the projector in the same location and project this huge image on the wall, a 10-foot image. And
because of the special lensing in the projection screen itself, it gives us more flexibility in the environment that we could put it in, because Jason can speak to the actual technology of the lenses, but now we can put them in more common rooms versus
in a brightly lit space.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not for the private theater anymore.
So just so we can understand, is that better than having a big TV? Are there some advantages to this projector technology, or is it mainly because it's bigger?
Yeah, I mean, it's size. There's no question that size drives a lot of buying decisions, and price drives a lot of buyers' decisions. You look at the marketplace, and reasonably, for the last several years, a Sony 85-inch TV, which is a big TV. It's heavy, it's bulky, but it's a large image, and it's a great image. And you're going to spend anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000. In fact, at CES this year, the trade show in Vegas, the new 8K Sony televisions are out, and they're $13,000 for an 85-inch.
Oh wow!
So when you look at televisions, that's reasonably the largest size television you're going to buy for the $3,000 to $6,000 price range. This LG projector is $59.95. It's $6,000, and we can go 100 inches, 110, 120. We can go up to 120 inches. Some people think, well, 85 to 120, is it that big of a difference? It's massive. I mean, you're talking about the diagonal of an image. So you're adding like 75% more viewing area. It's dramatic. It's very immersive and really spectacular. It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, and it just kind of solves that design. I don't know if problem is the word, but you don't have to have it mounted on the ceilings. I mean, that's key, because before that eliminated a projector in most people's mind, unless they had a dedicated room like a theater or a basement. Now it's just so flexible on where you can place this projector.
So how far from the screen is it then? I'm trying to visualize how this projector would set up.
Think of the projector it's about, I'm going to say it's like maybe 21 inches wide and maybe 4 inches tall and about 15 inches deep. And it sits about 7 inches off the wall. So you sit it on a credenza or a media cabinet or really anything below the screen, and it projects at a very severe angle up to a 120-inch picture.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So it's like pointing straight up right up on the
Yes.
screen, and somehow, the image is corrected for and shows up on this screen.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of technology in the lens, and then LG took it all the way, and they built this projector with a laser light engine. So it turns on instantly and it turns off instantly, and there's no bulb to replace like traditional projectors. It also has all of the features that LG built into their smart televisions, all built into the projector. So you literally plug it into the wall, set it on your cabinet, shoot your big, bright, clear 4K image, and you can scroll through YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and all the apps that you would want to download directly into the unit.
And there is a lot of design to the projection screen itself, with the lensing, making sure that image isn't distorted in any way, and it's a crystal clear picture at 120 inches.
Wow. And then, this could be dangerous because my kids would never want to get off it, but what,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
but what about the actual quality or clarity, or I don't know how you guys measure it with televisions, but that versus say a typical, whatever the current technology is, LCD technology on the regular television versus the laser bouncing off a screen. What is better when you're looking at it straight and when you're looking at it from, say, a 45-degree angle?
Right. So the angle of viewing that you just mentioned really is a non-issue with any modern video displays. I mean, I know years ago, if you get off access from a television, the image would fade considerably, especially the old Mitsubishi big screen TVs.
Yep.
Were probably the greatest selling big screen TV of all time. And at 65 and 75 inches, they were massive and they weighed 400 pounds and people loved them. But if you got off access, the image would look shaded. Now, and that's not an issue with any of the projection technologies that we use from LG or Sony or anyone else. And neither is the case with the flat screens. You almost can stand at a 170-degree angle, very severe angle, and there's no difference in the picture quality. What you were referring to, I think, was resolution and light output, right?
Yep.
All video images are created by light somehow. So LCD, we had plasma televisions, right? Where you excited electricity excited plasma particles, and they created, a billion colors, and you had a bright, clear picture. And then we moved to LCD televisions, which was basically tubes, LCD light reflecting through a substrate to create a picture. And then we moved to LED lights, which just made the TVs thinner, right? And then they started local dimming, where you had banks of LEDs. Instead of around the perimeter of the TV, they're all backlighting the TV so that you could get better black level. There's been certainly you and your listeners can review the whole history of these technologies and how they've gotten thinner and brighter and clearer and better contrast. Well, the latest evolution in projection technology is to go to a laser light engine instead of a light bulb. So the laser is simply the light engine. It's still projecting off of a chipset, right? So you have DLP projectors, you have LCOS projectors, you still have all the traditional technologies. You just have the new light engines. A laser doesn't run as hot as a metal halide bulb or whatever kind of lamp a different manufacturer uses. And it's instant on and instant off. There's no cooling period. It strikes immediately. So it feels like a really high-end television experience. Resolution-wise, the chipsets are the same, right? You're viewing a full 4K image. So you've got 8 million pixels shining on your screen, the same as a 4K television.
Wow. Okay. So that's, and so what is this thing? So just to wrap it up here, so probably too late to get it for the Super Bowl this year, but what's that going to cost? So it's $6,000 for the projector, but then there's going to be installation. It sounds like a screen's involved. What's the approximate total all in?
Yeah, so we have clients that spend on a home theater, whether it's that exact projector and screen or something else. We kind of have tiers. We have a lot of clients that'll spend anywhere from maybe $5,000 to $15,000 on a home theater experience, and then we kind of see the next jump. People spend somewhere between $15,000 to $30,000, and then you have your $30,000 and up clients. Where you're starting to focus on maybe it's more of a dedicated room or a dedicated space. But your open media rooms anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000. For a video display of some type, a surround system, componentry, tax installation, cabling, the whole deal. So it, as with all products, it ranges greatly, just like buying a car or buying a watch, right? Kind of anything, or appliances. Yep.
Well, listen, thanks for taking us through, and hopefully the audience finds that fascinating. And it's not that's the fun stuff, talking about how we can have a cool Super Bowl or movie experience. But now let's get into business. So let's talk about this builder vertical, this category that maybe a lot of us could be selling more into, and we're not. And and you alluded to it earlier with the CEDIA and talked about the industry a bit. Why don't we start, I guess, before we deep dive into the builder category, talk to me about the trade shows, because you mentioned that earlier. You said there's a builder home show, there's KBIZ. Tell me a little bit about the trade shows, who's there, and just kind of what's happening in that industry for those who are not familiar with it.
Yeah, so KBIZ is in Vegas right now as we speak, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah, my team's just coming back right now, actually.
Yeah, just about every builder that we know has been out there. And so there are manufacturers in our channel that have taken advantage of that. Smart home automation manufacturers like Control4, Sonos. There's a lot of manufacturers. No reason to name them all, but they're all pitching to builders. Why should you show our product to customers? Why should we be in your house? I come back to Sonos as a great example. We have a program for a handful of builders where the homeowner can select speakers in different rooms with Sonos to drive it, and they can add a soundbar to their TV, and it's all wired and installed as part of the house. Honeywell has a great program for builders that we utilize with their Residio product for security systems and basic smart home automation. And so the advantage to the consumer, of course, is that you can make a selection with your builder and it's installed before you move in and it's wrapped into your mortgage. That makes a lot of sense for some people that you don't have to come out of pocket. I've always said in this day and age, you can operate everything from your smartphone. Why not your house? Like it just makes sense, right? That you should be able to do this. So the building community, I think, has to be paying attention to these technologies. And I think the ones that aren't are really going to fall behind in terms of even just their perception with the general public of how sharp of a builder they are based on their embracing technology or not.
Yeah. And Jason, what are the shows? So we talk about KBIZ. Were there other builder shows? And again, just thinking about other companies that maybe are strong in Home Depot, strong in Amazon, but they haven't looked at this builder channel. So what shows should they be putting on their calendar?
Yeah. So, there's the national builder shows, like that, NHAB, the National Association of Home Builders, and those are in, Vegas or Orlando or whichever, all the way down to, regional and local shows. So I can speak for us. We attend local NARI events, National Association of Remodelers, ASID, the American Society of Interior Designers. They have regular events. And so maybe we're just attending those events to network, but sometimes we're helping host those events so that we're driving that traffic coming to our location. We happen to be inside of what's called the Indiana Design Center. It's a beautiful building on the north side of Indianapolis in Carmel, Indiana, and it's kind of the home to the design community for building and construction and remodeling and home design. And so we have a great space where we can host events and do continuing education credits for architects and designers who are specifying and working with builders. So it kind of, the whole community kind of all ties together in a really neat way. We're all working towards the same goal, which is, happy homeowners with, the right selection.
Yeah.
So, it starts, I guess, for each individual, it starts locally. And then, for large, multinational corporations, they should be looking at the big shows.
All right. So why don't I'll put myself on the spot here. So we have wine coolers and beer coolers, and we're actually coming out with this really awesome beer froster. And, what would so if you're advising me and could break it down into a couple steps and we're not in the builder market and you'd say, Luke, you got to do these things to get into the builder market. There's a huge opportunity. What might those things be? Just so we can kind of make this tangible for the listeners here on actually breaking into this market.
So I think, one of the things you could start out by doing is contacting your local builders association and finding out who all the members of the local builders association are. And they host a lot of events, like I said, ongoing education events or networking events for the builders, and maybe hosting one of those either in your own space, like your own retail environment, or at a space, like a lot of times they'll go to a local event center or, hosted space where you can sponsor these events. And then they give you time to showcase your products or services, at or during the event. They have their regular meetings that you can sponsor, and just start reaching out and try to get ingrained with the building community
and the design community as well, because a lot of projects like basement remodels or a specialty product like you're mentioning with beer and wine, that's something that a creative mind is definitely going to think of when they're designing a space. It might even be kind of the focal point or feature of the design. So chapters like ASID, for example, we're hosting ASID next week, our local chapter, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to speak about, what we do and how that might affect their design, and basically just educating them on all the options so they don't overlook something when they're creating a beautiful space for their customer.
And Jamie, that's so ASID is Architect. Is that an architect group?
Yeah, the American Society of Interior Designers.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And AIA is architects, so American Institute of Architecture. So all of these groups, the builders, architects, and designers. What we're really building, what we've really built over 20 plus years, is groups of people that are evangelizing for us. They're out telling the market, like, oh my gosh, you need to go talk to Premier. You need to go look at what they do. You need to do this in your house, or we've incorporated this design element into your home. With these products, you're getting the people on the front end that are specifying these things, specifying your products and specifying your services. So the homeowner is very likely, if they've hired one of these individuals, they're not going to hire them if they don't trust them. They're not going to hire them if they don't like them, right? So they tend to, once they've built that relationship with their homeowner or their customer, then that customer is really listening to them as an influencer. They have great influence on who their customer works with in terms of all the vendors, whether it's cabinetry or appliances or the painter or the flooring company, right? In all of our categories, and we're the resource for home consumer electronics.
Yeah, and technology and electronics, as we all know, it's always changing. So these short little classes that we're able to host, it's just kind of basically like a condensed clip version, for the designers and for the building community, because they don't have the time or necessarily the knowledge to keep up with everything. So it's their opportunity to come get their CEU credits and keep on top of their game when it comes to the latest and greatest and how to design spaces for those technologies.
They need to know enough to recommend the right partner.
Exactly.
Okay, well, listen, it's really insightful. So far, and we're talking about this, the home building, and also we got a little bit into design and architect, and obviously started these trade shows. NHAB, I think, was the Home Builders Association, and look at the regional shows. And then also look at it from a perspective of shows and organizations as related to builders, but then also separately to designers and separately to architects. And Jamie, from a marketing and branding perspective, is there more to it on the back end? And how are you kind of engaging with these different chapters and organizations besides attending the shows? Is there anything else you guys might be doing?
Well, I think first and foremost for us, our location certainly kind of sets the tone for that. We're within the Indiana Design Center, as Jason mentioned, which really is the hub for all of interior design here in central Indiana. So we're very fortunate to have this location. And then, with the 20 plus years of being in business, just that reputation and word of mouth referral, repeat business, when clients go on to finish their basement or when they move on to their next home, they don't have to think twice about, who they're going to call. They know that we did a great job the first time. And now they're probably thinking of this even, at a more advanced stage or at the very beginning of their process versus, considering it a little bit too late in the game and they couldn't have expanded on the system as they wanted to. So do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. I think what Jamie neglected to mention there is that she's an amazing photographer. And when she utilizes the social media to tell our story through pictures and compelling videos, like she posted a photograph of a project one time. We installed an LG video wall, really spectacular video wall. It went in a office of a wealth management firm in their front lobby. And she took a picture of it and posted it to Instagram. And we got a call from a client who said, "Hey, that looks absolutely amazing. I want that."
That was a residential client,
right? That
he owns his own business too. So it's just interesting how you put these ideas in front of our customers or our followers, and now all of a sudden they need something that they didn't even know they needed. Right,
exactly. So storytelling, I think,
education
is huge.
And storytelling.
You're showcasing what's possible. You're getting your customers or potential customers' mind brainstorming about what's important to them, what their priorities are. They're thinking about their budgets. They're planning, right? And then when they come to you, it's surprising and often refreshing that they've already thought about this stuff and the light bulb has started to go off, and they've expanded their budget a little bit in a category because they suddenly realize how important the things that we do are for their life. And that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Or maybe just explaining a technology in a different light, not to separate male, female, but sometimes our technology decisions are driven by the male, for example, in a relationship. Well, but then I'm a female. I can give the female's perspective or the mom perspective on why these technologies make my environment more safe or make it more efficient. So just kind of telling stories from a bunch of different angles too, to really create that need for the customer. Maybe, and like Jason said, maybe it's something they didn't know that they needed. But
to find that connection where they're connecting the dots, the light bulb goes off and say, you know what, I need that because I do this in my life and that product or that service would help.
Yeah. And I think that last part's really interesting because you probably have a couple customer personas. And like you said, Jamie, there's different customers, you might have, it might be the technology part, with the guys, but then the guys are probably clueless as we normally are to a bunch of other important things in the house. And so you bring your perspective.
Right?
Right. And
well,
I brought it up. It's my fault. But.
Well, you didn't have to say the clueless part. I'll say that part. But
there's a lot of validity to with what we do with home technology is to get the buy-in from the whole family. Like I'd like to take a hard stance and say we will not sell a system to just one member of the family. Right. We want everybody to come into the showroom, experience it, say, wow, we all get it. We all love it. Let's do this as a family. But certainly you got to get the husband and wife together on the decision. And I find more often than not, again, nothing like a good stereotype, but women use these systems more than men. They really do, honestly. I mean, we all watch television. We all listen to music. We all turn lights on and off. We all get warm and cold. We all need security. But women tend to take more of the nurturing approach for the whole family. And they're responding like, hey, are the doors shut? Are the doors locked? Is the alarm system armed? Did you turn your lights off in your bed? All these kinds of technologies that we implement. And they also like to host and entertain. So we've suddenly made these things really easy to embrace.
Jason and I joke a lot that sometimes the first step in our sales process, getting customers, into our showroom for a private consultation, we laugh that sometimes it's more like a marriage counseling session.
That's funny.
Because only one of the two,
really wants to be here.
But one's pointing fingers because the other one is the only one in the family that knows how to use the system because he or she is the one that designed the system. But the other doesn't know how to handle it. So we get really excited when those opportunities come through our door because our experience that we give our customers is all about intuitiveness and ease of use for anybody in the family.
Yeah. Cool. So, so what I heard there is just, brands and companies, especially kitchen, home, and appliance, should look for these design centers in their locales. And it sounds like that's a great lead generator. And you're next to the decision makers at the Indiana Design Center. So that's definitely a valuable nugget. And hopefully the audience can utilize that one. And then also, telling your story on Instagram with great photography. We all know that, but it's hard to do that. And sounds like you guys are doing a great job and just super interesting talking to both of you guys and learning about the company. And I think, it'd be great to wrap it up from more, on a business perspective. Do either of you guys have a favorite book you'd recommend to listeners?
Favorite books. So, honestly, I read an enormous amount, but it's all industry related. So trade magazines, all that type of stuff. I'm trying to think of I've read Good to Great, but I'm hoping that anybody that's running a company's read Good to Great. Yeah.
Well, how about this from a different angle? Is there a habit, a ritual, or a practice that, either of you have learned that's made you a more successful person?
Be consistent, be deadly consistent. If there's anything customers want to count on, it's consistency in everything you do. Consistency means you're reliable, that, they can count on you. If you say you're going to do something, of course, do it. But doing it consistently, I think, is hugely important. So that such your customers, whether it's a builder or an end consumer or whoever, they can rely on your process.
Yeah.
Our business is really focused on the ultimate customer experience. We take a real hands-on approach. We dedicate a lot of upfront hours in the sales process, honestly, before we even have made a dime. And a lot of times that earns us the business because of the level of trust we've been able to build with them over the hours we've spent directly with the customer and just their them seeing us understand every square inch of their home plan.
I think that's great advice. So there you go. You guys have it. Be consistent. That consistency translates into reliability and into trust. And I think it's great feedback. Well said.
Yep, exactly.
How can listeners find more about you guys? How can they learn about you or connect with you?
Well, of course, our website, we're at premier-group.com. And then Jamie would love to connect on all our social media accounts.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram and then LinkedIn as well.
And then House is a good resource. We didn't mention that. We have a profile on House, but that's a great resource for people shopping for all home goods, really, design and home goods. You can create idea books and bookmark stuff. And
oh, wow. So are you getting a bunch of business or some business referral from House?
We have. We've posted projects where clients have, not dissimilar to seeing something on Instagram where they said, hey, I saw this project. I want to do something similar. Absolutely. We probably have not been as aggressive with House as we could be, but I think it's a great platform for sure. Yeah.
Local, fast-growing company. So that's good to hear about that. And hopefully we can in a later episode, I'm going to look for a guest who's had a lot of success on House. It would be interesting to hear that. And I know they're in your category. So
right.
Maybe from a slightly different angle, because they're a lot of consumer product facing, but it sounds like your work is also referred through that. So listen, Jason, Jamie, I want to thank you both for joining me today on the Page One podcast. And just want to thank all the listeners for listening to the Page One podcast. Quick reminder that I am offering a free evaluation of your online sales strategy. We can take a look at sales strategy with Amazon, Home Depot, Wayfair. We can look at your product listings and your selling tools and see if influencer marketing might be a fit for you. And then we can present the findings directly to you. It's quick, easy, painless, and you get a lot of value. If you're interested, find me on LinkedIn or at luke@retailband.com. Thanks again, everybody, for listening to the Page One podcast sponsored by Retail Band. I appreciate all of you guys, all of your comments, suggestions, and reviews, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Page One podcast with Luke Peters. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our other segments. Also, please help us out by leaving us a rating on iTunes. Want to learn more about our commerce? Check out www.retailband.com to get more great tips and tricks on how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers.